Hello, you wrong'un. What do you mean? Where am I? I'm in Nottingham Magistrates Court. Can you not see the Justice Centre behind me? And why would I be here on a grey, dark British summer day? Wonder who's been to court today. There's a report coming later. Hello, ya wrong'un. As the sun sets over the yard arm, time for a little snifter of an evening and a catch-up as to what exactly happened at Nottingham Magistrates Court yesterday, 1st of June, 2023. And how would I know? Because I was there. As you saw that little video intro outside of the court that I recorded yesterday with the full intention of uploading it to YouTube. But YouTube decided that it was a short, because it's only 22 seconds long. It was a short. I didn't want it to be a short. I wanted it to be a full video. So that's why we've put it at the beginning as some kind of corroboration that I was there and witnessed it. And here's my take. I'll keep my takeaways until the end because they're personal and context that only I would have. Now, this was second floor, Court 10 yesterday. It was slated to be Court 10 for 2 hours, 10 till 12 in the morning, and then Court 3 in the afternoon, 2 till 4. They didn't need the afternoon. In fact, they only needed 12 minutes-ish to get the whole thing sorted. So in attendance was the judge, district judge. There was the legal eagles on the front bench and Nottinghamshire Police. Apart from that, me and one other. Appears either a BBC freelancer, female, or just somebody who happened to stumble in and then ping it across the news wires yesterday. Because if you look, there's a piece on Nottinghamshire Police website, and I'll put the link in the description for you so you can go and read that. There's Mail Online, 2 pieces. They definitely weren't there. And there was this piece that went onto the BBC website quite quickly after the court had finished for our part of the day. So the timing, I was there early-ish, but the court usher, just after 10, like a minute after 10, came out and was speaking to the legal eagle saying, look, this is not going to take very long. Reckon about 10, 15 minutes. And I was like, blimey, really? I put a day aside for this. So court usher kind of gave us a steer. It's only going to take 10, 15 minutes. Didn't even take that. It started at 10 past 10. Now it's the judge's court. He can do whatever he wants. So he started it, all rise, 10 past 10. It was finished by just after 20 past. No, I'm not going to do a funny because it's quite serious. So District Judge Sunil Khanna was the judge that was sitting. And I'm going to refer to some of my notes simply because I've got to get the detail absolutely bob on. And then I'm going to give you the context at the end because that context really is powerful. And the District Judge Sunil Khanna said it's all in the balance of probability. Alex was on screen, as was the prosecuting and defending barristers. Interesting that he's got a barrister for this, but he didn't have a barrister for his trial and only had a barrister when the court appointed one to him. So Alex was on screen via a CVP or video link from HMP Stocken. District Judge Khanna said he was satisfied that there was a need for a stalking prevention order. So if you've just come across the channel and you were a fan of Alex Belfield during lockdown, and this is the first time you've heard of what's happened or you've come to the channel to see what's happened, then let me just give you some previous context from the trial. Alex Belfield, who's now 43, is serving 5.5-year sentence for harassing and stalking 4 people online that he was found guilty of, including broadcaster Jeremy Vine. And Alex was made the subject of a stalking prevention order yesterday. He is a subject of that SPO. He was charged with stalking 8 different people who were mostly current or former BBC staff. He was convicted of stalking BBC Radio Northampton's Bernie Keith and videographer Ben Hewis. In relation to Jeremy Vine and theatre blogger Philip Dehaney, Alex Belfield was found guilty of 2 lesser offences of simple stalking, which does not require serious alarm or distress to be proven. Apologies for the cough. It's still this Charlie Oscar video 19 that's still hanging around. Alex Belfield, 43, was jailed for 5 years and 26 weeks, September 16th, 2022, I seem to remember, after being found guilty of waging a campaign against 4 people, including Jeremy Vine, the BBC Radio 2 presenter. As I say, Belfield appeared via video link from HMP Stocken in Rutland, East Midlands, yesterday as District Judge Sunil Khanna made a stalking prevention order. The order prevents Belfield, previously of Mapley in Nottingham, from contacting or attempting to contact Greg Scott or his wife Karen Scott, or publish or attempt to publish or broadcast any material relating to them. Now, it's very important. I was there and I heard the judge say broadcast. I made it in my notes. Yeah, the other journo that was there didn't catch that. So that's why it's not appeared in any of the reportage for the Mail Online or the BBC. But the judge definitely said broadcast any material relating to them. So it's a complete blanket ban. Former YouTuber Belfield, who was wearing a tracksuit top and green t-shirt, I can corroborate that he was. Wasn't looking great though. He sat at a desk making notes during the brief hearing and addressed the court to say, and I quote, and this is important because I'm going to reference this in my context, "I have never met, gone near, or ever contacted Karen Scott or done anything other than replying to Greg Scott. I just want to make that clear." I'll tell you how we got to that, because he was a bit bombastic at that point. District Judge Khanna said he was satisfied there was a need for the order to protect from stalking and warned Belfield he could face further jail time if he breached it. And he quoted the term length in court, which I will get to in my context, but they've not written it up in the reportage online. Now, the judge also made an order requiring Belfield to pay costs after prosecuting barrister Christopher Pembridge said the case, which had been ongoing for 3 years, had cost police £20,000. So if this case has been ongoing 3 years, that's 2020. And that's really important. Mr. Pembridge said it would be unjust for Belfield to pay the full costs, but asked the judge to consider an appropriate amount. Mr. Belfield is in prison, and on the question of his earning capacity when he comes out of prison, there could be restrictions on what work he could do, Mr. Pembridge said. It is very much up in the air and will depend on what happens upon his release eventually. Excuse me. Mr. Scott told Mail Online today, "My wife and I were subjected to over 2 years of offensive and worrying tweets from the convicted stalker and seemingly others who would assist him in carrying out his work for him. Tweets included personal information, outrageous lies, all kinds of threats and mentions of numerous family members. Anything to create the most upset possible. The indefinite stalking protection order we've won gives us the peace of mind that we won't be troubled by him any further once he's released from jail. I cannot stress how hugely relieved we are at this outcome." This is Greg Scott. "We would like to give huge thanks to Nottinghamshire Police and in particular Detective Constable Janet Percival for all the tireless and immaculate work on the case as a whole." Now, if you remember, at Belfield's sentencing in September, the judge made restraining orders in relation to all of the complainants, including those he was not convicted of stalking. Detective Constable Janet Percival of Nottinghamshire Police said, "It's been a long, hard slog, but we've now managed to secure these significant orders which will provide peace of mind for these 2 victims who were caused genuine alarm and distress by Mr. Belfield. I understand that people can be reluctant to contact us, sometimes because they aren't sure what's happening is serious enough to warrant police action, and sometimes because they feel we won't be able to help. But as DC Janet Percival continues, I can assure them that we will take their reports seriously and we will do whatever we can to help and protect them." The order that was imposed yesterday prevents the convicted stalker and, importantly, or any of his supporters from contacting these victims by any means. That's any means, including social media. Lifetime restraining orders were previously granted to all 8 complainants in the criminal case. And as I said to you many times in my videos, Alex Belfield or an agent in his stead. David Aubry, King's Counsel, acting for Mr. Belfield, argued that he would not be able to shoulder substantial costs because his ability to work after his release from prison would be limited and he could face a further civil case, with 400 grand sitting in his champagne sippers account, of course. He said, that's me saying that, not David Aubry. David Aubry continues, Belfield is in prison, and on the question of his earning capacity when he comes out of prison, there could be restrictions on what he could do. It is very much up in the air and will depend on what happens upon his release eventually. Not quite sure what that means, but a whole lot could be read into that. District Judge Karner ordered Belfield to pay £403 in costs, with 400 grand sitting in champagne sippers, and a rumoured, possibly reported, 200 grand in his Metro Bank account. So the judge was thankful for the prosecution and defence for coming up with the draft agreement. That agreement is in place until further notice. And the written order will be sent to Alex Belfield in jail. Now, the Stalking Prevention Order was made, and within 3 days of him being released from his incarceration, AB has to give police details of his new address, or current address, whichever one he goes to, the place of his residential address, should I say. And also the probation officer will have details of that, or the probation officer in case. Remember, trial judge Mr. Justice Saney made order of costs at the end of the trial of £10,000, which Alex paid, or is paying, one of the two, a substantial amount that everyone in court, the judge and the prosecution and defence, agreed that it was a substantial amount and had already been paid. Now, the OMU, Offender Management Unit, did say to the court that there would be a limitation on the work Mr. Belfield could do on release on licence. It really is up in the air. Mr. Belfield will have little capacity to earn. So to his supporters, I hate to tell you this, but please don't think he's going to come straight out and go straight on social media. Don't think that he's going to come out and go straight from stage and start earning. And please don't think that he's going to come out and start doing what he used to do, because he's out on licence for 3 years. And it is the terms of that licence which they will agree to, both the convicted stalker, the OMU, and the probation officer, before he comes out, unless the system is slightly different and I've been advised incorrectly. The Judge Karner said the costs were uncontested because both parties had agreed. He was really happy with the way that the prosecution and the defence had agreed to the costs, because that was the delay, as I understand, in getting to this point. Because it was slated for 2 days at Nottingham Magistrates Court. Was it 6th and 7th of March? They slated it for 2 days, and then they delayed it because they couldn't come to an agreement, probably on the costs. So, as you've heard and possibly read, because I'm going to put the links to all the reportage online for you to read so that you know I haven't changed any of it, I haven't changed any of the words, I've literally read it almost verbatim. As you've heard, Alex was wearing tracksuit top and green t-shirt. I can confirm that. But what I can also confirm is, look, no one likes to see another human being suffer. But this is jail, and he was jailed for a reason. And I'm really torn. Really. No, of course I don't want to see him really suffer. But jail is a punishment for a reason. And I will say here, categorically, no one really wants to see anyone suffer. But I've never seen Alex so thin. So the minute I saw him, my concern was, what's going on? He's definitely lost weight. Definitely. But he was also kind of dark in his face, still quite angry. And I'll corroborate that in a moment. So I don't know. I mean, I was always under the impression it might not be cordon bleu, but you definitely get 3 square meals a day. And he said, it's like being on a cruise. Put a cell to myself. But even when he was on the Atkins diet, even when he was running and drinking spirits rather than anything else, wine or anything that could put weight on, and steering clear of the carbs, he wasn't this thin. He wasn't. And I don't know whether Alex has learned anything from the 9 months that he's already served of his 2 years, 9 months that he'll serve before he possibly is released on licence. He still wanted the last word. As I said, he interjected and he said, I want to say something, I want to say something, I want to say something. This is a court of law. Now, ordinarily, he would have to go through his barrister, but the judge just said, okay, go ahead. And he keeps getting away with that. He keeps almost bending the court's will to his own. I want to say something, I want to say something. And he said, I want the court to know I have never met, gone near, or ever contacted Karen Scott or done anything other than replying to Greg Scott. I want to make that clear. And then he said, thank you. He still wanted the last word in court. Still. He's never met or contacted, and he wanted to have this last word. And he was, I wouldn't say he was contritious, but I would say he knew his place. Until he was either getting angry, he was making, I could watch him making his notes. He was either getting angry or he just blurted it out and wanted to have his say. But as I said a moment ago, the order granted was until further order. And the judge said a breach of this order will result in a possible custodial sentence of up to 5 years. Any breach of this order, up to 5 years back in jail. And at this point, the judge retired the convicted stalker, send him back. Now, I will round this video off by saying I'm torn. I really am torn. Seeing him that thin was a bit of a shock, to be fair. And I do, to a certain extent, feel sorry for him, to a certain extent. Because there's no more Vegas, there's no more travel to America or certain European countries or further afield. And he doesn't really have an ability to earn money. Maybe that's why he's hanging on to the money that is not in champagne sippers and hanging on to the money that is in champagne sippers. But I'm not sorry, because his actions got him to where he is. Not anybody else's, his actions. And don't, look, the narrative of, oh, it's a setup. Look, it's the law of the land. The Stalking and Harassment Act 2019. That's why he's in jail. And people say, oh, you know, look at what's going on currently. People that are rapists or child molesters don't get as long. I understand that. And yes, I appreciate it. But it's not, Alex was never set up. Alex is a product of his own actions, his own decision-making. And those other people that are guilty of those heinous crimes, the law needs to be changed so that those people spend longer in jail. I do agree with you on that. But yesterday it was so quick, and the note-taking was so furious that, quick, frenetic, I think is the word that I'm looking for, that we try to get as much of it as possible. And I think we captured that from the judge. Do I think Alex is having an easy time? No. Not by a long stretch. He's now 9 months in, so he'll be beginning to find his feet. Emotionally, he will have been up and down in the last 6 to 9 months. But he is where he is, And my constant advice has been head down, backside up, just grind out your sentence and then leave. I know that his talents are possibly not going to be able to shine anymore, because on licence, certainly for 3 years when he comes out, he's not going to be able to do it. By which point, AI is going to be in charge of the world. We're not going to... Society as we see it today, in June 2023, is going to completely change in the next 2 years, let alone the next 5. So that's what happened yesterday at Nottingham Magistrates Court. Myself and one other attended. No fans, no supporters, nothing. So all you online warriors and trolls, why weren't you there yesterday to support the man that you want to support online? No. And the reason I was there? To report on real crime. I wouldn't know someone who's committed a crime in a month of Sundays. But I do know Alex. I've known him for 25 years. So I can give this context. I can tell you whether he's lost weight or not by seeing him on a TV screen. I can tell you whether he's suffering or not by seeing him on a TV screen, let alone in the flesh. So I am saddened he had no one there at court yesterday. But I am glad that the Stalking Prevention Order is now in place to give the victims of the man peace of mind. As they should, and they have a right to that. So my name's Adrian Allen. Thank you for your likes, your subscriptions, but most of all, your indulgence. Don't forget the live on Sunday, 7 o'clock, and I'll see you in the next video.